dear cult members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to the 21st and a half century.
What?
Duck Dodgers.
Dodgers. The 21st and a half century.
There has been a long conversation on the internet about if this is the end of the decade because it's a 0 and not a 1, Gregorian calendars and whatever.
It's the beginning of the decade.
It's a new decade. So we decided to do our top 20 movies of the 2010s.
Right.
Some clarification on a lot of what our list is going to be. This is our favorites. It's maybe not necessarily the best movies of the 2010s.
Right.
That's a completely different list and different thought process. We really didn't get deep into the movie going and movie watching process until about 2 or 3 years ago. So we've been doing a lot of catch up on a lot of stuff. We didn't see Ex Machina until like 5 or 6 years after we had, saw it.
Right. It was like a year ago that we saw it.
And so it's stuff like that may not be as high on our list. And like I said, with it being our list of our favorites, things like Parasite or King's Speech or stuff like that was highly acclaimed aren't going to show up on our list.
Yeah.
Some clarification on my list. My list is definitely rewatchability.
Yes, that's pretty much what I used as a criteria for mine too.
Yeah, that's pretty much my, you'll understand as we get higher up the list about stuff. Where there's a handful of stuff that I'm just going to say that didn't make my list, and then you can kind of get an idea where we're at. Fury Road, Bohemian Rhapsody, Django Unchained, Ragnarok, all of those movies didn't make my list, and they're still super rewatchable for me.
Yeah.
I think we even watched Ragnarok last week.
Yep. I would put Black Panther in there. I would probably put not Last Jedi.
Force Awakens, Rogue One.
Force Awakens in there. Yeah. Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Actually, it's actually in my top 30, but didn't make it. Actually, I just want to say my number 30, because I had 60 movies that I put in order. My number 30 movie is a documentary called Leave the World Behind.
Really?
Yes.
Swedish House Mafia.
Swedish House Mafia's last tour.
It's a good documentary.
We own it and we've watched it a bunch.
Yep.
So let's start. So the way we're gonna do it is Janice will do 20 to 16. I will do 20 to 16. Then she will come back and do 15 to 11, and then we'll go back and forth. And then we get to our top 5. We'll spend a little more time kind of breaking down whether they're in our top 5.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. And go.
Okay. So number 20, I have Dark Knight Rises. 19, Social Network, because everyone else had that movie on their list. And it is actually, I have watched it a bunch.
Right.
Number 18 is Django. I struggled. Django. I struggled with which Quentin movie to put in my top 20 for the decade. And although I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think Django...
We've only seen it once.
True.
Right.
But I think Django just has more of a cultural impact.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
Number 17, John Wick 1, because it made me cry. And number 16, Deadpool.
Okay, I like that list. For me, I actually had Django at 27.
Oh.
So I actually, for as much as Quentin is probably one of my top 3 directors, I don't have any Quentin in my top 20.
Oh, shame on you.
I know, right? I'm just looking at it. All right, we're going to come back in 15 minutes after redo my list. Okay, so 20, I have The Accountant with Ben Affleck. I
a good one.
love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And Ben Affleck is amazing in it. I actually want to see The Accountant 2, and then I want to see The Accountant, Equalizer, John Wick crossover movie. Number 19 will be on nobody else's list. I know for a fact it will be on nobody else's list. The Monuments Men.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
with George Clooney and Matt Damon and Bill Murray
Yep.
and what's his name from Downton Abbey.
Yep.
I love that movie. Just this whole story, and I know people hated it. I don't really freaking care.
It's a true story,
It's
people.
a true story. It's amazing.
Yep.
It's so much fun to watch. Number 18, I have Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. Number 7, for all the obvious reasons, he jumps out of a building. Number 17, I have Captain America: The First Avenger. Over Civil War, over Winter Soldier. I know. All three of them are amazing, but that one's the one I of the Captain Americas. That's the one I like the
I'm
most.
not shocked, but
Right. A lot of people will be.
he loves that one.
Number 16, Rocket Man.
Ooh.
I have Rocket Man above Bohemian Rhapsody on multiple lists, and people will be. It's not like it's like too far. Bohemian Rhapsody was 21 for me, so it's like,
Yeah,
and I'm way more of a Queen fan than
Elton
John. I wanted to say Freddie Mercury like 6 times in my head. Then Elton John, but just that movie touched me a lot more, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So that was my number. That was 16 to 20.
Yeah, I loved both those movies, but neither of them made it to my list. 10 years is a long time.
It's a lot of movies. It's a lot.
Okay, so number 15 is Logan. I think that's just a different comic book movie.
It's a Western first
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
superheroes in it.
To me, it had an impact on the whole comic book genre because it was rated R for the first time. Number 14, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Same lines, but cartoon instead of Western, rated R, whatever. Number 13, A Quiet Place.
We just did trailer reaction for Quiet Place Part 2. So
I would watch the crap out of that movie if my husband would watch it with me.
we will go to Zia. I'm sure they're open today.
It's on Amazon. Number 12, Rogue One. Number 11, Hunger Games #1.
The first one?
Hunger Games. Yep.
First one? Okay. I thought about the Hunger Games series, and I'm actually going to change one in my list here. It's hard because I want to do all the Harry Potter movies and all the Star Wars movies and all the Hunger Games movies, and that's cheating. But yeah, I get the first one is probably my favorite of the Hunger Games, so I get that. I get that. I'll allow it.
Good.
15 for me is Inception.
Oh, wow.
14 is John Wick. I had the series, but John Wick 1, to what they did and how they changed the action movie genre with one movie and Keanu Reeves. Where am I? 13 is Sicario.
Okay.
My favorite director. There will be a theme in this list with my favorite director. So Sicario, it's just amazing. 12 is Deadpool. The first Deadpool.
Right.
For all the appropriate reasons. And 11 is Baby Driver.
Wow. All right. This is going to get interesting
You're
in a
going to
minute.
lose your computer here in a second.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
And
Okay.
we're back.
So now let's do 10 to 5.
10 to 6.
10 to 6. Sorry, 10 to 6.
10 to 6. Okay. 10, Hunger Games Catching Fire. That one... Hey,
No, you're fine.
you can't do
You're fine.
the whole series, and I liked that one the best out of all of them. Number 9, The Martian, which is probably higher up on my
Spoilers.
husband's list, but because we even if it's on cable or whatever, we watch it every time. Number 7, Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Yeah.
This was...
That's my favorite of the whole list.
Yes, and this was, again, the whole do you put the entire Marvel? Do you put the entire Star Wars? Do you put the entire Harry Potter? I had to go through and pick out
Right.
one, and it was actually 2011, so kind of everything else was before 2010 anyway.
Yeah.
And number 6, Get Out.
I have Get Out in here. I think it's in my honorable mentions, so it's like 50 plus. But yeah, I've watched it a couple times. I don't know if it's something I can rewatch, and I really, really like it. Like it's
I could.
It's like watching Joker again a little bit. So it's
No, especially after watching the is it Everything Great About Get Out, where they kind of start going into, and that's made me really want to rewatch it.
Cinema Wins does a really, really good job with it, and I think Film Joy with Movies with Mikey does a really good job with it too. All right, what are we doing? 10 to okay, so 10 to 6 for me. 10 is Blade Runner 2049, another Denis Villeneuve movie. To continue on from the first Blade Runner 30 years later, and Roger Deakins' cinematography is amazing.
The only reason it didn't make it into mine is because it is long, and I think it's a tough rewatch.
Yeah, it is.
I would do it, but not over and over again.
That movie changed a lot of how I see movies.
Yeah.
So that's why it's in my list. And
that's
so,
fair.
number nine, Dunkirk.
Oh, see, again, I feel that I struggle with the rewatchability on that one.
Again, that changed a lot of the way I view movies and how movies are done. The storytelling process of one part is a week, one part is a day, one part's an hour, and then they all culminate.
Yeah,
and
that is cool.
And then a lot of the stuff that happened with that movie around them for us, like how I got introduced to it, how you got introduced to it, and like there was a lot of stuff that kind of came out of that movie. I have Darkest Hour in my top 40 too. So
I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah. I think it's a double feature that needs to happen at some point in time. At number 8, I have Arrival.
Shocking.
Denis Villeneuve. That was my favorite movie that year, 2016 when it came out.
Yeah.
Again, just shot amazingly. What the story, what they're talking about, inside sci-fi. A lot of sci-fi on my list.
I struggled not putting that one on my list, but again, a bit of a struggle.
It's a hard watch, especially once you kind of know what's going on and stuff. And number 6 is Tron Legacy.
That's a good one because we watch that.
We watch a lot. Yeah. Best soundtrack in the last 10 years.
Yes. Yep.
We're EDM people. So all right. Now we're to our top 5. So you do your number 5, and we'll talk about it, and then I'll do my number 5, and then we'll go back and forth. Okay.
Yep. Cool. So my number 5 is Infinity War. I don't really know what I need to say about it. It's Infinity War. If you don't know, go watch it.
I just realized I didn't tell you my number 7.
Oh, what was your number 7?
Endgame.
Oh, Endgame is number 7?
You'll understand when you see the rest of my list.
What is wrong with you?
Spoilers for another list. It's going to be really high on another list.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how to defend Infinity War because
there's nothing to defend but Infinity War. To have your protagonist be the bad guy and have him win at the end after 20 movies and a superhero genre, and you take everything that you've built up in the universe and flip it on its head, and then make us all wait a freaking year.
Yeah, and cry.
And absolutely. My number 5 is Into the Spider-Verse. Again, I don't feel like any of these top 5 we have to really justify. Okay, maybe our number 1s, but the what Lord Miller did with that storytelling process and bringing in the different animation styles and
all the different spider
people
versus things.
versions. Yeah, my first real introduction to Miles Morales. We've talked about this before. I was in my 40s before I got into comics, so it's been really fun to kind of listen, kind of learn about all that stuff. Your number 4?
My number 4 is Baby Driver. If you don't understand, go watch. It's not Movies with Mikey. It's is it Cinema Wins?
Cinema Wins.
Cinema Wins. Baby Driver is amazing. We've actually watched it multiple times.
Yeah.
Because he points out things in this movie and we got a lot of them. A lot of the.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you call them.
Easter eggs.
I guess. Yeah. And he points out
details and stuff.
He points out even more. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. Movies Mikey does one too. Film Joy, they do a good one too. But Cinema Wins, it really nailed it for us.
Yeah,
like we loved the movie before, and then we watched it, and then we came back and caught all the stuff, and then rewatched it again, and we're like, there's so many levels. Edgar Wright,
and I was just gonna say. Edgar Wright is probably one of my favorite directors.
There'll be a theme coming later with Edgar Wright.
It's going to be shocking.
My number 4 is my favorite Star Wars movie, which is Rogue One.
Yep. Not surprised.
It's my favorite. It's a war movie first and a Star Wars movie second. The daring that they took to do that movie, there's a whole bunch of fan service in there, but I don't care. Part of why I love Star Wars is the fan service. So
yep. And it's completely rewatchable. I mean, it's the only Star Wars movie that made it into my top 20.
It's the only Star Wars movie that made my top 22.
Yeah.
Not that I'm. It's probably my favorite fandom. But
Yeah. But in the last decade, definitely favorite Star Wars movie.
Your number 3?
My number 3 is
1, 2, 3.
Endgame. I mean, I struggled with putting 2 Marvel movies in my top 5, but you can't have Infinity War without Endgame. All the feels wrapped up an entire decade of storytelling, wonderfully spoiled everyone. Now we can't watch any Rise of Skywalker. Everybody's comparing it to Endgame. So,
it makes complete sense, and I understand all of that. It's probably my favorite Marvel movie. Back to the discussion we were having about Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows is one of my Deathly Hallows Part 2 is one of my favorite Harry Potter movies because you do all the build up to get to this point, and then you stick the landing. Rise of Skywalker did the same thing for me. Even though the internet is dumb. My number 3 is Zero Dark 30.
Shocking.
Again, one of those movies that whenever it's on, I end up watching it.
Yep. Even if it's 5 minutes to the end.
Even if it's 5 minutes from the end. Jessica Chastain in that movie is amazing.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt's in that movie. You forget about that. Joel Egerton is in that movie. You forget about that. And it just I'm not a big war movie person, although that's my only war movie. And Dunkirk, and Rogue One's kind of a rogue, but I'm not a super war movie. I like history, but the way that story is told in almost a documentary style, and it's just
and it's close enough to when it actually happened that I know it's not 100% factually accurate, right? There's a lot of artistic license, but it gives you a lot of the feel of what was going on and how the capture happened and everything. And it was close enough that we all still remember, the night Obama came on TV and
announced.
Yeah.
And one of the best cameos ever in a movie is John Borman, who's over our shoulder. Our spirit animal was in the movie, so
not long enough.
Not long enough. He shares a scene with James Gandolfini. So that's the one question. If I had a chance to sit down and talk to him, was like that whole process with James Gandolfini, because he was an amazing actor.
Yeah.
So your number 2, I could go on for an hour. What? Zero Dark Thirty. Number 2.
My number 2 is Inception.
Yeah. Let's see. Mine was 15, but I mean,
I'm shocked that Inception wasn't higher on your list.
I've redone my list like 7 times in the last 3 days. So
that's like, I kind of got to the if I was trapped on a desert island point, and movies that I could watch over and over and over again, and it would take me a while to get tired of them, and there's just so many layers, and we've watched that. When did it come out? 2010. It's been out for the decade, and we still rewatch it, and I see stuff that I missed.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan. I actually had what's the other one? Interstellar. I thought about Interstellar on my list for a little bit too, because I really like what he does with the science part of time travel and quantum mechanics and physics and stuff like that, and how space and like I'm a sci-fi guy, so like all that kind of stuff really got me. But with Inception, the idea of dreams within dreams is just a really cool kind of process. We just lost our sound, so we're going to come right back. Sorry about that, cult members. Sometimes our sound decides to go away. So we're just finishing up our conversation about Inception.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to talk about before we got to the end was Christopher Nolan with Tenet and what he's coming.
Yeah, super excited about that.
Super excited.
Yeah. He obviously is another one of our top directors. I mean, I have 2 of his movies in my top 20 for the decade.
The 2 of mine too, with Dunkirk. And,
Yep.
So, we should do a director's list at some point in time. Apparently. So my number 2 is The Martian. Ridley Scott, Matt Damon, Alone on Mars. It is the most accurate depiction of real space travel in the future, like near future, that they've really been able to do within the Hollywood system.
When Neil deGrasse Tyson comes out and says, it's pretty good.
That's multiple on CinemaSins. Not to we keep plugging everybody else's, but CinemaSins, they try to send a bunch of stuff on there, and they had Neil deGrasse Tyson as a guest, and he came in and says, no, that's real, and no, that's possible, and no, this is possible, and especially after what happened this week, where we got sound from
of
the wind on Mars, and just and the book is amazing, and they do a really good job of telling the story of the staying fairly close to the book. And
I mean, they had to speed some stuff up because it actually takes him like 3 months to go from the
to the hab to
the rocket, whatever that was sitting there, and they kind of blew through that. But obviously you're not going to take 3 months,
right. But it just it's visually shot amazing, and what they were doing on Earth depicting Mars, and the drama that goes on back and forth, and again, a really awesome Lord of the Rings scene with Sean Bean in it, and Danny Glover's just every little detail like that was always gets me. And again, whenever it pops on, it pops on.
Yeah.
Do you want to say our number 1 at the same time? Number 1 for the decade. Which is going to be on nobody else's list. I will put it that way too.
Oh no, it was. I saw it on other people's lists, not number 1, but.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to be number 1 on our list, and that's Scott Pilgrim versus the World. This was a movie we slept on when it came out in the theater. Back to the whole conversation we were having earlier about not not getting into the movie going process.
To be fair, everybody slept on this movie.
Yes, yes. It made less than like $60 million in the theater or whatever. Became a cult classic later on. Is widely considered one of the main reasons why we were able to kind of have the ridiculousness of things like Guardians and Birds of Prey, Ragnarok, Into the Spider-Verse. You can't have that strangeness of comic book storytelling without having this, even though it's video games, it's really a video game movie.
But it's also a comic book.
Yeah, and it's big. The guy who wrote the comic was finishing the run when Edgar Wright was writing this movie, and they were Dixon. Is that his name? Derrickson? No, it's not Derrickson. I think it's Dixon. Be Nice in the Comics, please. He was on set helping Edgar write scenes, and so they've talked about how they influenced each other in the storytelling process. So one influenced the other. All of the actors have gone on to be, pretty big. It was Jesse Eisenberg. It was like his first movie where he was like you really kind of just start to see that he was really, it actually could be really good and stuff.
And let's see, Superman is in this movie.
Brandon Roth is in this.
Captain Marvel is in this movie.
Brie Larson, Allison Pill, who is going to be in Picard, and she's been in a bunch of different stuff. She's in this movie.
Yeah. It's like everybody that's
Chris Evans is in the movie. And it is our most rewatched movie.
Yeah, and quotable. We quote the movie all the time. Bread makes you fat.
Bread makes you fat. Actually, we just did that this morning. Actually, and the other thing too that I think for at least us, again, we're going to keep promoting Cinema Wins, and Film Joy. They both break down the movie and show all the detail and all the things that go into it. And we already love the movie and knew it pretty well, and then we got into that.
Yeah, there was, again, same with Baby Driver, we've watched this movie over and over and over again, and Cinema Wins pointed stuff out that we had missed, especially with the numbers, because the numbers are everywhere.
Yeah, and just to give you a little bit more of a reference point of where we're at with this movie, we have 3 copies.
Right.
And we've gone and locally they do a cult classic night.
Yeah.
We've gone and seen it in the theater a couple times since on those cult classic nights, and
that was fun.
We cosplayed as Scott and Ramona at our Comic-Con a couple years. So it's the impact on us as a movie is important, but it's also it's a fun movie, and super, super
rewatchable for the reason I just said. You are always finding new stuff that you missed.
Yeah.
The last time. Is this part of the Cornello trilogy?
It is not part of the Cornello trilogy.
Okay.
The Cornello trilogy is Shaun of the Dead, World's End. What's the middle one? Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz. And I'm actually hoping that they do another one. They've all kind of talked. Edgar wants to do one. Edgar's got one that's coming out. It's a horror film based in Soho that's coming out next year that I'm really interested in and stuff. Anything else that you want to kind of throw out there as an honorable mention?
No, because we could just go on and on and on and on.
There was one that I want to actually. There was 2 movies that I actually wanted to mention that I didn't put on my top, 20 list, and that was Peanut Butter Falcon and Free Solo. Those are both movies that we saw this year. Free Solo, the documentary about the free climb at El Capitan. Peanut Butter Falcon was a movie that I Collider Live was promoting it, and
Yeah.
I had no thought of seeing it. And spoilers for another list, it's going to be on that one. And but yeah, it was. I going back and looking at this list. Like I said, I had like 60 movies, and just kind of started moving things around.
Yeah, yeah. It's tough not to put stuff from the current year or the current, the last 2 years, like just fill up the list with that because they're fresh, right? And we have recently gotten into watching way more movies, so I really struggled with, okay, my top 20 cannot be full of 2018 and 2019
and my part of my issue is I could just sit there and do all the superhero movies that's come out too, you know, and that was, but I had to be really honest with myself, and that was the idea of rewatchability for me is really high. It's high. It's really high.
Really high. Well, I mean, all of the Marvel movies we rewatch.
We own them all, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking about trying to buy that $500 box Uber set.
No, he's not buying
I would
that.
like a gift of the $500 Uber gift set thing. But that idea of rewatchability is my number one criteria when it comes to enjoyment of movies.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but yeah. There's a lot of movies that we watch over and over again that aren't actually on our list. You have to kind of whittle it down.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a couple. I'm like looking at our DVD case, and I'm like, we've watched Lord of War a bazillion times.
Yeah.
And I think that came out in like 2009. But it's that kind of stuff that's on there. So that is our list of our top 20 favorite movies of the 2010s. What is your list, cult members? Let us know in the comments down below.
It's harder than you think.
It's a lot harder than you think. I've watched a bunch of people do their list, and they try to get it down to 10, and I'm just like, no, that's not happening. Like I said, I had 60. So let us know what your top 20 are. Be nice in the comments about, holes that we may have in our system. It's fine. And subscribe to this channel or this feed. Hit the bell for notifications if you're on YouTube. Also help us out by following us on all the social media stuff. All the links to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that is in the description down below. One more, and then we could do all the editing. So if we don't see you, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.